Something's been sticking to me lately that I really just can't shake. And a lot of it is these studies that are coming out, not only about depression, but also about loneliness. The specific statistics aren't really important, but what's even more important is how there's more means of meeting people now than there's ever been, and more people on earth than there's ever been, more places to meet people than there's ever been. But yet we can't seem to improve upon this mass loneliness, but instead it just keeps proliferating. If you were someone who feels as though what is happening to you is out from left field, like you just, no matter what, if you go left, other people go right, and vice versa. The people who come to you are not on the same page as you. The people who you love, they're not necessarily meeting you at the same degree. What I want to tell you is that it may hurt to come to any sort of conclusion that I'm about to present to you. But it is necessary if you truly want to find that which is your North Star, that which brings you ultimate contentedness and peace. Probably should have said contentment instead, but you know, it's okay. It is because there is an aspect of this situation that was leading you astray away from yourself. It was There were aspects of this situation, this person, that you have been lying to yourself about. It doesn't mean that they're inherently all bad, and you are still allowed to feel negatively. In fact, if you get the urge to feel at all, that's a good thing, because being numb, for anyone who knows what it's like to be numb, it's more hellish than feeling pain, because you feel like you're not even there, especially if you feel like you've gone through any level of dissociation, which I definitely have my entire life. It's not usually in our nature to think of the positives in that which pains us, or even the logical. And that's what I'm doing here. Um, and it's not logic from a linear mathematical standpoint either. And it's not positivity at all. Toxic positivity can make you feel so much more pain. But logic in the sense of the bigger picture, but the bigger picture in a spiritual standpoint. What do I mean? Well, the piloerection that our skin experiences when we feel strong emotions is uh, our human biofield, which is the surface of our skin, and it's sensing energy in the ether, which is the atmosphere, which is exactly what Nikola Tesla meant by free energy. He got fired because he wanted us to have free energy. So when you think in a big picture for something that you feel like you don't want to be happening to you and you don't feel like it's fair, or maybe those things aren't even true, maybe you do feel like it's fair, or maybe fairness isn't even a part of it, but maybe it just doesn't make any sense to you. And it's the last thing you would have wanted happen. Well, you're looking at someone who more than understands what it is that feels like. But what's more than that is when I say spiritual, I mean that since we're electricity, we are electric beings, we emit a frequency. Every single chakra point that they say is spiritual, it's really not. Those are blood vessel points in your body. Those are vascular points in your body where blood vessels cross more often. And each of them emit a frequency. Not everything emits a frequency, but we do. And so, how does that relate to any of this? Well, when we cross to the other side, whether or not you believe in heaven or hell, which it's said more than enough times that there's not one good man on earth, so with that logic, no one is going to heaven. But I don't believe that we all have the potential to have a peaceful afterlife. I know we do. And the reason why it's important to understand that is because that means that this life is so far from meaningless. This life is the most precious thing. So there are greater forces at work, yes. But like I said, whether you believe in God or not, you have to understand that since we're electricity, God is not all that there is who is helping you. We have a complex purpose here, and it often comes to us in a very faint, quiet voice that causes us to procrastinate and to ignore ourselves. And so, if you do wake up to this purpose to any capacity, and you choose to continue ignoring it time and time again, the people in your life really have to leave. it has to happen some way or somehow, because if they didn't, then you would never reach the point that you need to be at to be your most creative, your most successful, your highest self, whatever that means for you. Some people thrive and seem to be almost immune to pain in their lives. And I know what you're thinking. There's not a single person. Well, you can tell people who have gone through the ringer and people who have had it pretty easy. I can. Um, and I've actually met people who will straight out say that. But then you have other people who, and this has been all of us, I think this is absolutely something that applies to all of us. We don't know what we have until it's gone. But when it's gone, it's not loneliness that you should be feeling. This is attempting to illuminate your path for you, because otherwise you would have just continued ignoring it. You had to be shoved away from that which you were, frankly, wasting your time worrying about. And believe it or not, your path isn't entirely about you, it's also about what you can do for other people. And so sometimes you can't see this. Most of the time, you can't see this until after the fact. After you've been isolated to the point where you really have no choice but to see it anymore. You really have no choice but to answer your call, but not answer the call of the person that you love, but answer the call to not even the world, but to your eternity. And in some cases, the eternity of other people. If you can understand what passion is, you can understand how influential it can be on the people around you. Even just having a conversation about something that you haven't been able to talk about with too many people, for instance, but you have this conversation with a stranger. You don't really, you'll never know what's been going on in that person's life. You'll never know the degree of pain that they perhaps suffer yesterday, last week, last month, last year. But to have a reminder that connection is an ignition of a flame that can be found anywhere, and that it denotes a message that guides you to your path. sometimes we don't see the reason for certain situations until years and years and years down the road. So you really can't waste your time feeling so much pain when you could just be creating and answering the call to your path so that you can get busy creating it, refining it, and in turn helping other people refine theirs. There are extremely mundane aspects of life that have helped people find meaning again. So imagine what you can do with what you have been pushing off to the side just because life is going all right, and you know, either it's going all right or it's not, but your expectations are in the wrong place. If you are feeling loneliness, you expected XYZ to happen with this person and it's not, so because that's not happening, then now you can't fulfill anything you want to fulfill. That's an illusion. After going through some of the most painful times, it's actually more than possible to feel more at peace than you've ever been when you understand that every challenge is it's meant to illuminate that you are ignoring yourself. How do I know this? Well, unfortunately, I can't give you the full. I can't fully tell, but if you've ever noticed that when you start to take small steps toward that which you truly love, have you noticed that that's when the challenges start really coming? I've heard a lot of people say and agree with me when I say that Earth is hell. I don't necessarily believe that anymore, but I believe that not necessarily every challenge is there to help us, but it is there to push us toward persistence, toward true, authentic passion. Not the passion that you have for the habits that you have, but the passion that you have toward that which will not only benefit yourself, but those external to you. And that's different for every single one of us. When you sit down to write, maybe it's the first time in a while, that's when the phone calls come in. That's when people suddenly start to want to talk to you. That's when the dogs start barking. That's when the distractions come in. But then when you're sitting idle, everything seems to be okay. It's because you're disrupting that which was expected of you previously. And the expectations are what keeps you complacent. The expectations are what brings the pain, because the expectations, meeting the expectations of mediocrity and complacency, that's what really brings the long-term pain. Because if you really think about it, everything is temporary, but what's not temporary is the pain that will be caused from ignoring yourself, abandoning yourself, abandoning your agency. No one will be hurt more from misplaced energy, misplaced love at the end of your life, at the end of your physical life, than you. You. That lasts forever. But the circumstances that you're going through and the emotions that you're going through and the people who you really perceive as so fundamentally important to your identity, those are all just temporary things. Because the fact of the matter is, you have no idea how that person was talking about you behind your back or thinking about you inside of their head. So, if we assume that the universe is orchestrated in uh, a perfectly mathematically symmetrical manner, which it is, look at sacred geometry and look at the correlations of numbers in nature, because it truly is orchestrated perfectly symmetrically. You'll see that everything that occurs here is because it is it is for the greater good. But only if you choose to see, only if you choose to acknowledge your infinite nature. Life is only as finite as you believe it is. Your resilience only extends as far as you believe that it does, and only as far as you allow it to. And this may have been repeated many different ways, and it may seem like obvious, but when you stop and you really think about anything that's truly bothering you, you'll start to see that maybe you haven't answered the call. Maybe you've answered someone else's call and you're mistaking it for yours. Or maybe you've been on the wrong call or listening in on someone else's. You haven't really lost anything, even if you feel like you have.